QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Credit card reconciliation for the first month of operations after we've been installing and using bank feeds. Let's get into it with Intuit. QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Here we are in our bank feed test file. We currently have the open windows open. You can open the open windows by going to the view dropdown, selecting the open windows list. We're not going to take a look at the bank reconciliation process or the credit card reconciliation process. We will reconcile the bank at a future point. We're doing the same thing in essence for the credit cards. Let's start off by opening up the balance sheet. Reports drop down, company and financial. We're going to take a look at the balance sheet standard. So opening up the balance sheet standard, changing the dates up top from 01/01/20 to 12/31/20. And then let's run that report. We're looking down here at the credit card information. So we've entered the credit card information with the bank feeds. If I go into that information, this is what we have thus far. We're going to be recording this and adjusting it now, or reconciling it. And we're going to do it for the first month, which will be May. So this is the first month that we have data that we've been putting in place with the credit card information. Now, oftentimes when we do the first month, we have like kind of an added problem with it. And that is that did we enter the beginning balance? Meaning, were we using this credit card prior to the point in time we entered it into the system? Was there a beginning balance? If so, we're going to have to do something with that beginning balance so that we can do the reconciliation process. Also note that these little check marks will basically mean that it has cleared the bank, that we've recorded it and cleared it. Now they've gone here because I went into the reconciliation process and I checked them off and on the reconciliation process, which kind of removed this like a temporary check mark saying it's cleared. Now the fact that it's cleared here means that you're kind of reconciling as you go. And you might say, well, if I'm reconciling as I go, why do I need to do the bank reconciliation? You still want to tie it out periodically, just so that you can make sure that you're reconciling periodically, especially if you're recording transactions basically outside of the bank feeds and then tying them to the bank feeds. If you're getting all the information directly from the bank feeds, like we basically did here, it should be really easy to reconcile after you do the first month, because you're not doing two sets of books. Instead, you're just taking your information just straight from the bank statement or the credit card statement by pulling it directly from the online transfer. But you still want to do the reconciliation because that'll double check that you didn't like double enter anything, like something didn't get downloaded twice, for example, or that you didn't miss anything, meaning there's something that for some reason didn't get downloaded or you deleted it, somehow it got deleted. So you still kind of want to do the bank reconciliation, but it should be a really easy process if you're basically depending on the information directly from the bank feeds, because then the bank statement or the credit card statement, like this, here's a mock credit card statement. It'll tie out exactly to what you have in the books because you got the stuff from the books from the same source, from the same institution. It's all coming from the bank. So if we have something like this, it'll lay it out. We're going to say, okay, here's the beginning balance for May 1st. This is going to be our problem when we first start doing the first reconciliation, because we might not have entered the beginning balance. All we entered was the transactions from one period to the other. If there were a beginning balance, in other words, if we were using the credit card before that point that we started downloading the transactions, we're going to have to enter that beginning balance into the system. Once done, the following reconciliations should be very easy. So then we have the customer payments. These are going to be the payments that we're paying off on the credit card. Charges, these are things we're buying with the credit card, increasing the liability. And then we have the ending balance here. So then we have the detail. These are the payments that we've made to pay off the credit card during this time period. And here are the charges. Again, these should line up exactly to what is in the system, because if we built our system from the credit card bank feeds, because it's the same data. So the reconciliation should be easy. If I go back on over, we're going to say, okay, let's close this out. And the process, well, let's do one more thing. If I go back into that data, notice the ending balance here for as of the end of May is 225.18. Doesn't match what's on the reconciliation, not because there's any outstanding items per se this time, because we're taking our data directly from the bank, but because it looks like we don't have the beginning balance in there. So we're going to have to basically deal with that. So let's close this out and let's open up the bank reconciliation. We go to the banking dropdown, reconcile, and then I'm going to be picking up the reconciliation for the credit card. And I'm going to do it as a 5/30/20, so we do it 1 month at a time. Now note, there's no beginning balance here. That's the problem. There's no beginning balance. You could go in and try to enter the beginning balance into the system, but we can also just record it and charge it as if it's one other thing we're going to charge off. We just need to check it off in the things that have cleared. Either we do so with the beginning balance, or we just move forward and then check it off. We'll add it as a missing item as we go. So for example, I'm gonna say the ending balance we know, that's gonna be the 1,300. So I'm gonna pick that up. I'm gonna keep the beginning balance 0. That's gonna throw us off, but we'll see what to do with that in a second. So I'm not gonna put anything down here for the finance charges. Even if there were finance charges, I would do that. Well, we would see them in the bank feed data in any case. So leave that blank here. I'm gonna say continue, and then we'll just check these off. And now this is going to have everything that we have thus far. We probably don't need anything after this point in time. So I'm going to say hide everything after the end date, because if it was entered into the system after that point, then it shouldn't be on the bank statement. Now, normally you should be able to just check off the whole thing like this, because you got all this information. Wait a sec. You should be able to check it off like this, just checking off the entire thing, because this thing should reconcile. And if we do that, we're off by the difference being the beginning balance. And that should be the case, again, if you created your books directly from the bank feed. So there's the beginning balance that we're off by. So if you were doing a kind of like a full service kind of process, then you would want to tie, you might have some reconciling items. So then you would have to kind of tie these out. I'd have to unmark them all. The traditional method would be that you'd go through each one of these saying, okay, there's a payment, there's the payment. And then you want to go from your bank statement to there. So there's the 3337, there's the 3337, and then here's these 3, boom, 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 boom. We'll check them off here. And like I said, it should be an easy process if there's nothing double entered and there wasn't something missing, then it should be an easy process to reconcile, considering the fact that we built our books based on the information directly from the bank. So down here we have the beginning balance, we got the payments and charges. Over here we have the reconciling item. So, and we're off, of course, by the beginning balance. So now we're gonna have to do something with that beginning balance. I'm simply gonna enter the beginning balance into the system. Now, if you're starting, you typically want to do this if you're starting the new books and you're starting a new kind of accounting system. You don't typically want to start like in the middle of the year, basically, as we did here. You really want to start like in January. And then you can basically say, if I had accounting books before that, you want to take a look at the prior accounting system. And then in this year, the cutoff is January. You want to move forward from here. So if you started like in the middle of the year, then you'd have to consider where were those other charges? Should they be included in these books? Are they in the prior accounting records, and so on and so forth? So I'm gonna put them into basically equity here. So I'm gonna go back to the let's go to the lists drop down, chart of accounts, and I'm gonna go into this credit card account. So here's the Wells Fargo credit card. I'm gonna double click on that. And I'm going to enter this as of, let's say, I'm going to enter it the month before we started entering the data, which it looks like is 4/30/20. And I'm going to say that this was a charge for the amount of the beginning balance of 1074.82. So this is going to be 1074.82. Whoop, hold on a second. Something happened. 1074.82. And the other side, so now where should it be going? Because these are charges in the prior period. I'm going to say it's going to go into the equity section, not affecting the income statement. And again, this would be best to do if you were to do this before the current year, before the current period. So it wouldn't affect the activity in the current year. But in any case, it's not going to hit the income statement if I put it to the equity account. So I'm going to say it's going to go into owner's equity. And I'm going to say this is the beginning balance, and then okay. And so we will then check that off. This that's okay. You're about to post it to retained earnings, that's okay. And so there we have it. Now if I go back into the reconciling, we've got that item to check off, and if I check it off, now we've reconciled the beginning balance there. So I can then say, okay, reconcile. We can go ahead and do the reconciliation. And then the outstanding balance on this is $1,300. To pay all the portion of this amount, select the payment. So we could pay it at this point in time. We're not going to be paying it at this point in time. And we could also enter a bill at this point, which would increase the accounts payable, saying that we're going to pay it in shortly. But we have it set up as electronic transfer, so I don't want to do either of those things. I'm just going to close that item out, that option out. And then you've got your reconciliation reports. If I was to display the reconciliation reports, we can take a look at these. Now, they're going to be really straightforward because there's not any outstanding items now. So now we have, this is going to be the register balance of the 1,300. This is like the activity up top. We had the beginning balance, and then the cleared transactions, and then the payments. That gives us the cleared balance. So the cleared balance is basically a repeat of what's on the credit card statement here. That's basically the credit card statement. And then we have the register balance here, and there's no change between the two of them. There's nothing outstanding. There's no reconciliation process happening because, again, we made our books basically from the bank feeds, and therefore there's no difference between our books. There's no timing difference between our books and the statements books. So, but you still probably want to have the reconciliation just to make sure, again, that you don't double input anything or that you're missing something. And then these are the new transactions, again, not really necessary because they're past the reconciliation point. So it's pretty plain reconciliation report. This is just a more detailed reconciliation report. It's breaking out the detail, basically repeating what's on the credit card items again, and then you have the new charges. So if we go to our balance sheet now, and if I was to double click on the credit card information and we go down to 5, there's where our statement is as of 5/27 now. Now we're at the 1,300, which matches the 1,300 ending balance. Again, we didn't say we're going to pay anything once we reconciled because we're paying basically electronically. So we didn't enter a bill or we didn't write the check for that amount like QuickBooks asked us to do, because we're gonna basically pay it electronically from bank feed to bank feed as we do. And so we'll do one more of these. We'll do the next reconciliation next time. And when we do the next reconciliation, it'll be even easier because we don't have the beginning balance problem. So the beginning balance should just roll forward now.